look at somebody that's successful and tell me that they don't have those three traits, or show me somebody that's successful that doesn't have those three traits. I really don't think you'll be able to do it. If you can't tell by the title of today's video, we're going to be talking about the 3 habits of most highly successful people. If you're able to embody these 3 habits, these are the habits that most people that have success in whatever realm that they've chosen follow and they abide by. And these are pretty much the common denominators of most successful people. If you look at anybody, they normally do at least all 3 of these 3 things, honestly. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it. So the first habit of most highly successful people is how often they read. And all of these habits, I'm going to be jumping and jumbling into multiple things. So when I say how often somebody reads, I'm really talking about how often somebody wants to learn, right? How often are they willing to learn? How often do they open up a book? Are they looking to get some certifications? Are they looking to increase their knowledge so that they have a certain skill set or improved skill set in whatever it is that they've chosen, right? For my cybersecurity guys, if you're in information security, cybersecurity, whatever it is, for my people that are in tech, right? You understand the importance of getting certifications and how that can ultimately increase your salary and your ultimate outlook in the career field, right? You can get more opportunities because you have more certifications, right? You're more of an asset to companies, right? So when you talk about how often you're willing to learn, how often you're willing to read, right? How often are you willing to separate yourself from the competition in whatever niche or group that you set yourself in, all right? How often do you watch film, right? How often are you studying your chosen field, your chosen path, whatever it may be? And like I said, it can blend and bleed into a lot of different things, but ultimately, you have to be somebody who's willing to learn, somebody who's willing to study and improve upon a certain set of skills that they have, right? For my guys that's into social media, if you're trying to build an audience, right, you have to learn, you have to study this stuff, right? You have to read up on the best way to improve your lighting, right? The best cameras, the best microphones, right? You got to read and study this stuff so that you can improve and set yourself apart in your chosen path, right? So with the first habit, the first habit we're going to talk about, like I already said, is, that you have to be reading, you have to be learning, and then constantly seeking more and new information. So for the second habit of most highly successful people is how often you practice, right? So we talked about how often you want to learn, how often you're willing to read. Now it's how often you practice, right? How often are you going through the motions? How often are you setting up the camera, or not even setting up the camera, right? So for example, with content creation, how do I practice coming on here and doing this, right? I'm in my room all the time with the camera off, with the phone facing me as if the camera was on, right? Not even recording, talking to myself, right? Practicing hitting on the points that I'm going to hit, and it's going to look different for everybody, right? If you're somebody who's heavy into scripting, right? If you need to script out your videos a bit more, that's you practicing, right? You're working on your craft so that when it's time to actually, put it into game speed, you're ready for it, right? And it's the same thing with multiple things, right? Once you learn whatever skill that you've set out to learn, or you're working on it, you have to move into that next stage, right? You have to start practicing, right? If you're a NASCAR driver, right? Before you get into the game, or before you get into the big race, you got to practice, right? You got to be able to hit those turns, hit those corners. You got to be able to. But we know football players, my baseball players, basketball, whatever sport you're in, it's the same deal. How often are you practicing going through those motions? How often are you taking those shots, right? Are you taking 1,000 shots? My baseball players, are you taking 1,000 swings, right? Football, are you working on those routes, right? You have to be able to practice so that way when it's time to actually do and commit to, full speed, you're ready for it, right? So that's definitely the second habit of most highly successful people, I'll say, is once you learn, you practice. You're getting a lot of repetitions in, and the second habit is really where people can go wrong a lot of times. And I'll talk about the third habit here in a second, but people oftentimes get to doing habit 1 and habit 2 so much that they forget to do habit 3. So what is habit 3? The third habit of most successful people is how often you do, right? If you look at most successful people, they might have learned, right? So they might have been reading, getting their skills up, their knowledge up, right? And then they started practicing, right? But the biggest difference between most successful people and maybe even yourself is they don't allow themselves to get into a consistent cycle of only practicing, only reading, and never doing, right? You can't continue to just, you know, practice and do your own dribble drills, and when it's time to run 5-on-5, or when it's time to be in a game speed scenario, you're not ready for it. You're not prepared because you haven't actually done that. You have to get repetitions of doing. You have to be okay with failing. You have to be okay with not being the best version of yourself that you want to be, at least in that moment, and then be able to move on and actually do. You can't just expect yourself to jump and be at the highest height of whatever sport you've chosen, at the highest height of your profession, at the highest height of content creation, right? You have to work your way up and consistently do and consistently actually put action into whatever it is, whatever goal it is you have set, whatever your purpose is. You have to consistently put action into that, right? You can't just allow yourself to keep on spinning your wheels in the mud, and then a week goes by, a month goes by, and yeah, you did a lot of reading, you did a lot of research, you understand the best camera possibly that you could have, but you didn't do it, right? You didn't push yourself out there. Mr. Beast, he talks about it in terms of growing a channel, right? Growing a personal following. You gotta get to that first 100 videos. I'm coming up on video 50. I'm halfway there, and I'm not in my head looking specifically at numbers. Right? I'm looking at numbers, of course. We can't help it. We can't help it. And you should be able to take, a lesson at least from what you are realizing your audience likes. Right? That's part of studying. Right? That's part of reading and learning up on how to improve. Right? You're always going to be working on that next level. Right? You can't get to a point where you read so much, or you read to a certain amount, and you're like, oh, I know enough, I'm good now. And that's when people become stagnant. That's when you start getting some growth, and you become complacent, and you don't continue that upward momentum and reach the highest heights that you possibly can. And like I was saying, Mr. Beast talked about it. You gotta hit that 100 videos, and you gotta put yourself out there, right? Your first video isn't gonna be the best video. From there, you get to that halfway mark, you might start seeing some changes. Look at some of my oldest videos, right? You're talking about 8-ish months ago, when I first really got this going. You could see the complete difference. At least I hope so, in the quality of the video, right? Maybe even the sound of the video, how it looks, the appeal, right? The camera quality. I'm working to improve all of these things over time, so that I improve, and so that my content improves, and so that everything else that comes with it as it should, right? So if you're looking to be a highly successful person, like I said, you need to focus on these three things. You need to focus on reading, learning, right? You need to focus on practicing, get your repetitions in, right? You don't have to have the camera on if that's what you're doing. You don't have to be in a 5-on-5 game to get your shots up, and you don't have to be in a full baseball game to hit off the tee, right? So practice. And then finally, the third thing, once you've done enough research and you've practiced enough to feel comfortable and confident enough to get yourself going, and sometimes you have to break out of that comfort zone. Oftentimes we do. It's really the biggest issue. It's time for you to start doing. It's time for you to start putting yourself out there. It's time for you to start getting those games going. It's time for you to tell that business that you're ready to get a contract with them. And from there, you work on yourself, and you continue improving, and you continue going up. You don't allow yourself to have a limit. Those are 3 habits of highly successful people. I won't say that they're the end all be all, but look at somebody that's successful. Look at somebody that's successful, and tell me that they don't have those 3 traits, or show me somebody that's successful that doesn't have those 3 traits. I really don't think you'll be able to do it. All that being said, man, I've really been enjoying making these videos. I've been enjoying coming out here. It's good to come out here, catch some sun before work. Whether somebody hates it, somebody loves it, I'm sure there's somebody that's gonna rock with me and understand what I'm trying to get across. All of that being said, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this video again. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn on that post notification bell, right? You see the consistency we coming out with. If you need you some motivation in the morning, if you need you something to hear before you go to work, maybe my people, you might be hybrid, you might be working from home like myself, and you got something on in the background regardless anyway, some motivational podcast, something like that, that's me. Come to Dante for that.